You're listening to the Curio-city Collective podcast, and I'm Arpita. In our previous episode, we spoke to the fab duo Sadhana Ramchander and Kobita Das Kohli, who curate the Hyderabad Tree Enthusiasts group. Over the years, they've been taking people on tree walks to various parks of Hyderabad and have also expanded into short exploratory trips around the city. They do all of this pro bono with no agenda except curiosity, joy, and a deep, abiding love for nature. What we discovered during the conversation was that this group was an outcome in some ways of an exploration that began in an alternate school called Vidyaranya, where both Sadhana and Kobita's kids studied. With a simple idea of introducing urban children to the natural world, they undertook nature appreciation classes for different age groups. Considering how childhood in urban spaces is becoming increasingly oriented to the indoors, we thought we'd do a short FAQ with Sadhana on how they went about speaking and working with children to expand their horizons. So Sadhana, where does one begin? How do you introduce the school kids to the idea of being present in and more engaged with nature?
Many of the children, especially because they are growing up in a city, they have no place for gardening. Most of them have just balconies. And they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to put their hands in the earth or dig. And we make them do digging, we make them do all kinds of things, handle soil and all that. So they would be very reluctant. No teacher, I have allergies, I can't put my... So the first thing we would tell them is, it's good to feel the earth. It's very good to be connected to the earth. So very slowly we started, telling them these kind of things, and we could see at how they slowly changed. And we would not only gardening, but we used to show them some birds up on the trees, things happening in nature. Different times different trees flower, so we make it a point to show them. Then we take them to parks and show them various flowering trees. So we could see that slowly their minds were opening up, and we had kind of planted a seed in their minds. Definitely there's a change in them.
What were your initial observations on how the kids responded? Did they take on the new ideas immediately, or was there some cajoling and added conversation involved?
Children these days are very smart. But unfortunately, it's a lot of city stuff. It's a lot of machines, a lot of, cell phones and screen time. So they are very smart in those aspects. And their information too, they have a lot of information in their heads. And they also have Google at their disposal. But then the kind of things that we taught them, really they didn't know. And something as simple as before sowing coriander, we need to split the seeds. They wouldn't know that. And they would say, okay, why do we need to do that? So we would tell them that, the top of the dhania seed is actually a seed coat that has to be broken. Otherwise it will not sprout. So these kind of small things, they really made a difference to them. And they would be like, oh, okay, teacher. And they themselves started, observing things in nature and coming and excitedly telling us. Then they would spot some tree and come and ask us, what is this tree? And so yes, that curiosity definitely.
So while working alongside children through these past years, if you were to share with our listeners one vital tip on how to get children interested in the world around them, what would that be?
So what works is, I think, is a practical approach. You can't stand and talk theory with them. They find it very boring. You lose them in 1 minute. So I'll give you an example. What we show them around the school. Vidyaranya has some 28 varieties of trees. So our intention is to make them familiar with these 28 varieties of trees. So now we do that in about 4 different ways. One is to take them repeatedly on a tree walk in the school and explain about the trees. The second thing we do is we make them play a game. It's like a treasure hunt. It's a tree hunt. So initially we used to keep some kind of a small tree-shaped little cardboard piece near the trees, and we would give them the name of the tree. We would label the trees. And that labeling also, the labels are made by the children. So when they are doing the labels, they become familiar with the names. Because not all names are, they don't know all the trees. Like something like Ciris. They wouldn't have heard that. So they write, then they color it, they make the labels. Then we put the labels up, then we make them play this game. So once again, there's engagement with all these trees. So at the end of the whole year, we make them do a quiz. In the quiz also, we ask them various questions about the trees. So this kind of repeated engagement really helps. And if you come to the class when we do the quiz, you'll be really surprised because how well they learn. And that is because of constant engagement.
Rabindranath Tagore once wrote, "The thin shrill cry of the high-flying kite in the blazing sun of a dazed Indian midday sent to a solitary boy the signal of a dumb distant kinship. The few coconut palms growing by the boundary wall of our house, like some war captives from an older army of invaders of this earth, spoke to me of the eternal companionship which the great brotherhood of trees have ever offered to man." It comes as no surprise that nature and experiential learning played a vital role in his imagination of future education. Even then, he warned that we must not behave like miners taking only for things, and instead become like the tillers of the earth whose work is a perfect collaboration with nature. In these times of the climate crisis, when it is vital for us and our children to re-educate ourselves in the rhythms of nature, Sadhana and Kobita have provided a simple peek into a path of reconnection. If you found yourself hooked, you can find them both on Instagram and explore this theme further at www.thecuriositycollective.org. In the coming month, as we explore the connection between cities and wild green spaces, we chat with the lovely Sai Whitaker, co-founder of the Madras Crocodile Bank. We speak about everything from her love for crocs, snakes, and books to how we can begin to unpack and heal man-animal conflicts. Do listen in.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or a podcast app of your convenience. We're also on YouTube, so look up the channel, The Curio-city Collective, or follow us through our social media pages. And most importantly, if you like what you're hearing, please do share these episodes with your family, friends, and community members. Leave us your thoughts, comments, and feedback. We love hearing from you.
This podcast was created by Srinidhi Raghavan, Deepika Khatri, and Arpita Joshi. The sound editing was by Vijay Chawla.